Thank you very much, Gloria, our CEO, for the opening remarks. And I'm seeing very many people signing up. Please bear with us for the technical glitches. We are doing our very best to make it work. At this moment, I'd like to invite our chairperson to give both his opening remarks and his contribution as a panelist.
I thank you very much, and I thank all the participants, all the members for coming up and creating time. There is a lot of sacrifice, both in terms of time and even loading the MBs so that you can attend this one. That is very good, and we very much appreciate it. We have a lot of sympathy with the entire membership, knowing that we are going through a lot of hardship, and we are sympathetic with you. We are very much aware that tourism as a business was the first to get hit before any other sector was hit, and even recovery, I know, will also be a little bit longer, since tourists will take precautionary measures before they can decide to move to another destination. Maybe this is why you will find that most of these, the first victims were those who were flying. And since tourism involves a lot of movement, that means our sector is actually very much threatened. When the first cancellations happened, Auto was very fast to move, because again, when the government decided that incoming tourists had to first go through quarantine of 14 days before they can go to their destinations, a lot of potential tourists, those who had come for their packages in Uganda, were they decided to go back, since they had planned to spend about 5 to 10 days. And if you tell them to go through quarantine of 14 days, they couldn't bear with it, and at their cost, that was not bearable. So what happened? Some of youth operators came to Auto and were like complaining that why are you keeping quiet when we are getting these cancellations and these people are asking for a refund. So we managed to go to the Minister of Health, asking them that if these people are tested and they are not negative and they are healthy, why shouldn't they go ahead and do their tours? But she said the risk was, since this virus is not seen until after 14 days, the chances were high that one of these could maybe have a virus and end up in the tour attraction center. And the risk was, one, this person would contaminate or spread the virus to the tour guide himself, the driver, and maybe even where the areas where they have gone for the tour, and even the animals themselves were at risk of getting contaminated with the virus. So it became very difficult for us to convince the minister, and before we knew it all, then there was the lockdown, but it was faced, and so we didn't get an answer to those who had earlier cancellations and those who asked for refunds. But when it came all embracing and every business was affected, then it became a worrying situation, and we had to negotiate as a sector. And we as Auto, we again moved very quickly, because we knew there was a challenge where some of our members had a number of, especially had challenges, especially concerning the gorilla permits. This is where we had to contact WUA, and we first wrote to them and solicited for a meeting which meeting was granted. And when it was granted, so we asked for a number of items as auto, and these negotiations were very fruitful, because in the first place, those permits which had already been scheduled were allowed to be rescheduled with no conditions. And then those permits which had deposited 30% were also allowed to be deposited without first completing the 70% payment or 100% payment, which meant that person was free to reschedule his or her permit without uh, without first paying 100%, using only the deposit. Then the deadline of 30th June was also lifted, that those who will trek after 30th June on using the old tariff, again, it was allowed that if they reschedule and they end up coming after 30th June, as long as these permits had already been paid before or deposited upon, they would take the old tariff. Maybe right now, yeah, we are getting some proposals that even the old tariff should remain, and there was since the challenges of our our sector having a problem of getting low demand, it is very difficult to increase the tariff to 700 does encounter with who we expect to negotiate so that they can stay the increment of the tariff from 600 to 800 to 700. Then we also agreed with the UWA that the trekking going for the gorilla permits and sorry, for gorilla trekking, even if it is local tourism or even a chimpanzee, since these apes share a lot with the human being, they would be endangered. So we agreed that it should be stopped, and we agreed that for 1 month there wouldn't be visiting these areas of gorillas and chimpanzees. Then we also negotiated with UWA that we are enrolled on the National Task Force, since the other institutions which were on the National Task Force were not actually representing tourism-related issues, and they couldn't maybe internalize some of these issues. That one was also granted. So it was very good interaction. Then the other intervention which was done again with WHOA, that the industry, since it had challenges and a lot of people would get problems even after the pandemic has gone, there was a need of people being helped around, especially those who had the bank loan. So we approached the World Bank, and emails were sent to members to submit their details and the size of bank loans they had. And we are praying very hard that if the World Bank can come in handy and help those who are having bank loans, so that they can be assisted to overcome their financial challenges. We also wrote to add to our voice to the Minister of Finance and Tourism, as well as URA, to add our voice to the rest of the private sector players to get waivers, especially on VAT return, because people had to make a return, those who had to make returns and they had challenges of liquidity problems, they would make returns without, and they would end up getting fines. So the waiver was put, and right now this is URA has accepted, and as even pay as you earn, because if you are not even paying your employees, it would be very difficult to make a return, and then you pay the taxes even before the employees are paid. Again, we added our voice as auto to the loan restructuring with Bank of Uganda to come as a matter of policy other than individual members going to negotiate with private banks as to how they can maybe handle their loans. Good enough, Bank of Uganda finally has heeded, and it has allowed loan restructuring for those who have loans, and they can also go, take up to 3 months. But you have to go to your bank and negotiate and ensure that at least the loan can be restructured according to your liquidity or your inflows, so that you don't have to rely. But as much to policy, if Bank of Uganda has released and allowed the restructuring, that is very good. So the rest of the commercial banks can listen and they can adjust these loans. Then our request is again to drop interest rates, because if they retain the interest rate on them for the 3 months or 4 months we are not working, that could be very tricky, because again, if you lend money to somebody to work and he ends up is not working, and then you are charging him for using the money, that would be unfair. This one has not been got, but we are still pushing for it. I've also made as a matter of fact, we sat, it was raised on the directors forum as to the donation of something, and they will show cause to some of people who are going through challenges, especially through this pandemic. So we made a donation of 7 tons of maize flour and 2 tons of beans to WUA. The original idea was to donate this to people who live along the national parks, the protected areas. And we thought these might be finding challenges, and they might end up poaching the animals. And by the time we end this pandemic, we would be having problems if the animals have already been eaten. If the game has already been eaten, now you will not have a chance of taking the tourists there, because there would be nothing. However, when we talked to WUA, when we told them about our intended plan, they told us, no. We also have problems with the game rangers, and we need them to be assisted, because we have to keep them vigilant and to keep watching these animals and ensure that the poachers don't feast on them. But since they were earning from the tour activities, now that it has gone down, then we need to look into their plight. So that's why we ended up giving the donation to WUA, and even WUA was very appreciative. If some of you saw the moods which we found when we delivered the item seriously, you would have appreciated how this entire thing was received with open hands. Finally, we arranged for this one to get more ideas, because we think as auto, we don't have a blueprint for everything. We don't have a blueprint for all the challenges we are going through. And we think at the end of the day, after this submission, everyone will be, at least we shall have generated more ideas and how best we can advocate for the ideas and the challenges, and how we can overcome this pandemic challenge and what has come. In economics, we call these exogenous factors, which are beyond your control. But once they come, you have to see how to survive your company and how you can see how you can go through such difficult times. Otherwise, you might sink with it, and that will not be very good for the industry. So we shall continue lobbying and for other actions as long as we get good recommendations from this intervention. I thank you very much, and that is my submission. Thank you very much.